The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live. In the main watch today, a Gender X passport. Second watch, starting a business. In our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on designation of a Gender X in passports? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube Live, and also WhatsApp to 876-997-3125, and with your text and voice notes using hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's I quote.
God, we're all equally wise and equally foolish. Albert Einstein.
Siobhan, this is another one of these, sir. Good morning, Siobhan.
Good morning, Stokely.
Before God, we are all equally wise and equally foolish. I leave that one right there, sir. Listeners, interesting I quote indeed. The Morning Watch. We'll be back after this break.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Make I tell you about short-term motor insurance from JNGI. You choose what you need, 30, 60, 90 days policy. No long commitment, full third party. Don't park your car, don't walk, get a shotty. So affordable and it's not per nation market. JNGI shotty. Country party, we have a shotty. Just insure your vehicle and start it. Roll out with a shotty. Shotty, the short-term motor insurance from JN General Insurance. Available only online.
Did you know Breeze powder detergent is also antibacterial? Even after washing, bacteria can remain on your clothes, which can cause diseases. Breeze kills 99.9% of bacteria while removing even the toughest stains. So, really clean your clothes with Breeze.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch. Now, the United States of America has issued its first passport with an X gender designation. At least 11 other countries have already done something similar to this. And clearly what is termed as, or what are termed as LGBTQ rights, appear to be becoming more recognized more and more across various parts, certainly of the Western world, and even further afield. Now, what is this signaling, if anything, or is it much ado about nothing? Does Jamaica need to be concerned, for example, and other territories in the Caribbean, countries in the Caribbean? We have online this morning to have a discussion about this matter. Pastor Bruce Paulson, pastor of Christian Life Fellowship, and Mrs. Shirley Richards, legal counsel of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. Good day, Pastor Paulson. We're seeing you. Good day, Mrs. Richards.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay.
Great having you, Pastor Paulson.
Good to be alive.
Great. Hoping to see Mrs. Richards or have her join us by telephone shortly. Well, I will start with this, Pastor Paulson, while we await Mrs. Richards. We have here a story in today's Observer dated Thursday, October 28th. I tell you, you know, on the Morning Watch, we do make the best efforts to be very much on time with the latest in the news in terms of discussing issues on the Morning Watch. We have here Denver, Colorado. The United States has issued its first passport with an X-gender designation. This is in today's issue of the Jamaica Observer, certainly online. The United States has issued its first passport with an X-gender designation, marking a milestone in the recognition of the rights of people who do not identify as male or female, and expects to be able to offer the option more broadly next year, the State Department said Wednesday. I suppose that would have been Wednesday yesterday. The department did not identify the passport recipient, but Dana Zim, and that Dana is spelled D-A-N-A, Zim is spelled Z-Z or Z-Z-Y-Y-M, pronounced Zim as if it were Z-I-M-M or Z-I-M-M, of Fort Collins, Colorado, told the Associated Press in a telephone interview it was their passport. Zim, who prefers a gender-neutral pronoun, I suppose that's why they refer to themselves as they, has been in a legal battle with the government since 2015 over a passport. Zim said their fight for the passport with an accurate gender designation was a way to help the next generation of intersex people win recognition as full citizens with rights. Okay, Pastor Paulson, I noticed that Zim refers to, should I say themselves, as being intersex, which to my knowledge is a slightly different issue from transgender, but not different, probably a much bigger issue from in terms of intersex and transgender, two different things to my knowledge anyway.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the person appears to be asserting the right to this passport as a victory, I suppose, in relation to not identifying as either male or female. The Observer has chosen to feature this story in its feature today, which means that they regard it as a significant story. Pastor Paulson, any thoughts before Mrs. Richards might come on?
Well, good morning again, Stokely. Morning to your listeners.
Yes,
you know what it speaks to is the natural consequence of when people reject basic truth. You know, we, as scriptures remind us, reveals in Genesis, God made mankind in his own image, male and female, he created them. And so male and female is not simply a social designation or social construct. It is a physical, biological, spiritual reality. God made mankind, male and female, in his image. When we start playing with that, what we get to is a situation where men are rejecting, whether wittingly or unwittingly, rejecting the fact that we are the image of God. We reflect the image of God. And so when persons say things like, well, we're non-binary and this and that, what we're doing is really rejecting truth revealed to us, and truth that is observable. You mentioned the difference between transgender and intersex. It's true. I think scientifically what we know is that they're about the occurrence of intersex, as persons born with both male and female genitalia and organ, is about 0.018%. That's what we a very small number. And for persons, that's a kind of anachronism. What we do is we say that we understand that is a challenge, and there has to be some kind of there's often some kind of scientific intervention to help such persons. What we're dealing with now is a broader issue. So in the case of Zim, this person, it's interesting that Zim refers to herself as them. I can't help but think of when Jesus confronted, the demoniac, and he identified himself as Legion because we are many. It just seems to be something which is demonic, this thing of denying God's image in ourselves and changing pronouns to reflect some kind of reality that only you can see. Persons in that situation need empathy, not for us to change our laws to match their misguided perceptions.
You said something, well, two things. One, and I'm not playing the devil's advocate. I would never do that.
God forbid.
However, you referred to Zim as herself. And if you notice, Zim preferred to use the pronoun they. And I think you might be aware that in some jurisdictions, it's actually considered incorrect to misgender someone.
Yeah.
Misgender, MIS, followed by the rest of the word gender. The other letters, yes. So some persons would say that you're misgendering her by misgendering this person, I should say, maybe, I don't know, by referring to this person as herself. See, I also said her. Without thinking about it, not deliberately. So, arguably, sir, any comments you have in relation to the whole matter of whether you are considered to have misgendered someone because you refer to the wrong pronoun? Some persons have lost their jobs in some overseas jurisdictions because they stuck to the typical binary terms, as they call it, male and female, him and her, that sort of thing, whereas they would rather be referred to with a gender neutral pronoun. Sir, any comments?
Well, that's what happens when you adjust your laws to suit somebody's escape from reality. The situation we face is that, and we know of cases, yes, where persons.
Can I ask you to stop there one moment? And again, I'm not playing the devil's advocate. I would never do that. But when you refer to the person's escape from reality, are you? Well, some persons might say you're being a little bit harsh. Why are you saying that their reality is an escape from reality? Maybe that is their reality.
Because the issue is that the person, because we are trying to cater to people's we are catering to a view that says things like gender is a social construct, and here's the thing. The person will say that my gender is how I perceive myself. The issue is that if you perceive yourself a certain way, how can you force others to perceive of you the same way? It is not logical. And more than that, there's also what goes with it is a belief that gender is fluid and it can change at any time. That is part of the whole system of thinking now. And so if gender is fluid, then what it means is that Zim, for example, could conceivably in another week or two, or maybe next year, perceive of them, this person could see themselves as another pronoun, and you are required to follow them. That's not how laws are made. That's not how science is constructed.
Hold that thought, Pastor Paulson, because I do see where we are upon a break. Hold those thoughts, sir. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch. Stay with us.
4,455 reports of child abuse in Jamaica. Report child abuse. Call 211.
The time brought to you by Child Protection Services is
7:15.
What does Christmas mean to you? What about making a loved one's face smile bright or driving your own car? CIBC First Caribbean gives you up to 100% financing on auto loans. Apply online and let our auto financing take you places this Christmas. Visit CIBCFCIB.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply.
Bashco time. All the things that you need for your home with prices so low, you would never need a loan at Bashco. Really at Bashco. Shopping. Appliances, house with furniture and rugs, pieces and linens and glass and mugs at Bashco. You're shopping at Bashco. Whether the north or so in the east and the west, Bashco, them all over, they must be the best at Bashco. At Bashco. You're shopping at Bashco. At Bashco. Giving you more.
DIGICEL. First in a class when you have Digicel. School as Prime Bundle. That's right, with your educational website, make you bright. Head to the top of your class with your first Digicel SIM and a School as Prime Bundle. Get over 142 gigabytes of data so you can have access to educational sites, social media platforms, Digicel apps, and more for as low as $1,500 for 28 days. Get a School as Prime Bundle with your first Digicel SIM card. Visit a Digicel store today. DIGICEL.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch. The topic for this main watch is a Gender X passport. Our guest for this segment, Pastor Bruce Paulson, pastor of the Christian Life Fellowship, as well as Mrs. Shirley Richards, legal counsel, Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. Now, Pastor Paulson, before the break, you were making a very valid point, it would appear, and I believe we also have Mrs. Shirley Richards online now. But before we bring in Mrs. Richards, Pastor Paulson, would you like to complete your thought before we bring in Mr. Richards?
Well, just to say that one of the common things nowadays behind this gender identity argument is that gender is, it is determined, the person determines their gender, their preferred gender, and it doesn't have to match with their assigned biological sex, right? And so it is something in their minds. What they're therefore asking us, and also they say it is fluid, and they're asking the societies to accept their perception of themselves. On what basis can you force or require members of a society to accept something that operates in your mind? Because there is no biological reality to go with. So there's no hard science to follow it. It's just your own perception. And your perception can change.
Pastor Paulson, there are so many questions that I could raise with you, but because of time, I can't ask all of them. But have you had any issues, for example, in the church sphere, not necessarily your church, but within Christian circles where persons may be desirous of becoming members of your church, or you may even have members of your church or visitors to your church or whichever church that you may be aware of, who might be going through situations where they're not certain about their gender. Have you come across that? And if you have, what has the result been, if anything, if you can share it?
No, to date, I have not encountered that. But based on what's happening in the world, I think it would only be a matter of time before we see that happening.
Okay, sir. Mrs. Richards?
Yes, Mr. Marshall, my apologies. I couldn't come on earlier. My apologies to you and yourself and your listeners. Good morning, Pastor Post.
Well, we are glad you're now on, Mrs. Richards, because earlier on we referred to a story. Today's Observer, and the story is in relation to, if I could pull it back up here, the United States issues its first gender X passport. And yes, here it is. United States issues its first passport with X gender marker. I'll read a bit of it again, Mrs. Richards, because you weren't on earlier. The United States has issued its first passport with an X gender designation, marking a milestone, and it continues. It then goes on to refer to the applicant, or the person the recipient rather, of the passport. The name is Dana Zim, pronounced Zim, Z-I-M or Z-I-M, of Fort Collins, Colorado. And it goes on to say that Zim preferred a gender-neutral pronoun. So, this reference is to this person as they, not him or her. And Mrs. Richards, how does this strike you? Interestingly, however, this person is not transgender or not so described. The report describes the person as intersex, which to my knowledge is not the same as transgender. That might be another conversation. But however, Mr. Richards, notwithstanding, do you have any comments in relation to this? And do you see a possibility, whether in any current legislation or even in any draft legislation, that such a thing could occur here in Jamaica?
Mr. Marshall, you have asked me a number of questions. Firstly, let me just confirm and get the opinion of a doctor on this. But the intersex category of persons is not the same as the transgender individuals. Intersex are persons who are born with ambiguous genitalia. That's a very, very small percentage of individuals. That is pathology. Something has gone wrong there. What I find is that people use this pathological issue to embrace or to as a blanket for the transgender agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, as I heard you speaking, I remember the case of Dr. David Mackeret in England, who lost his job in 2019 because he told a tribunal that he refuses to call a 6-foot bearded man who comes to him madam, and for that he lost his job. This is not just a case, and we've been saying it over the years. It's not just a case of people wanting to appear whom they desire. Wanting to take on the image that they desire. This is not a case of that. No, but you are mandated. This agenda mandates you to refer to the individual by certain pronouns, in spite of who is standing before you. So it's something we have been saying over the years. This is an agenda that is not just trying to change up order, but it's also bringing force upon those around to be politically correct, to ensure that they do not cause offense to others simply because they refer to the reality of the situation. And you'll see somebody standing before you who you know is a man, but all of a sudden, well, it might still look like a man, but wants to be called by feminine pronouns, and will take
or other pronouns that have been recently created or formulated.
Please repeat, Mr. Marshall.
I'm saying, or they may not necessarily want to be called by the other well-established pronoun, but might want to be called by another name, which is deemed to be another type of pronoun.
In Jamaica here, where somebody has turned up to work Monday morning and HR has said, you must no longer call this person David. This person is now Davidia or some. needs to be
Mr. Richard, would you mind repeating what you just said a while ago? You almost glossed over it. You're saying you know of one case or a case in Jamaica like that?
Of at least one case in Jamaica where HR sent around that release to the employees. You asked earlier about draft.
And by the way, the issue about the name David to the video or something like that, these are names you actually know about, or you're using those as examples of what the change was?
As an example only. I use the name as example only.
And was it a private sector entity or a government entity, Mrs. Richards?
No,
sorry for my asking, but as a journalist, I have to drill down into this. Is it a private sector entity or a government entity, as to your knowledge?
It was a private sector entity that I heard of.
I see. In corporate Jamaica or on the North Coast, maybe a hotel. What kind of private sector entity?
No, the information I got related to a financial institution. And it wasn't just a name change, it was that the person wanted to be referred to as by a particular pronoun. No, you asked the question earlier.
I'm sorry, Mr. Richards, I just need to ask this one more. Is it someone in management or someone in what you would call quote unquote regular staff?
If I remember correctly, it was regular staff.
I see. Proceed, Mrs. Richards.
It was regular staff.
Yeah.
It was regular staff. And
I don't say regular staff in a negative way. I'm just using the term to distinguish. Go ahead, Mrs. Richards.
Years ago, I remember we went to Parliament. We've been saying this to Parliament over the years, watch your legislation, watch the changes that you bring in, because they are more far-reaching than you would think. You have some slight change in a law, and people take advantage of that and widen the crack until you get a chasm.
Are you aware of any legislation? Are you aware of any current legislation or any current draft legislation that could open up or lead to such an eventuality here in Jamaica?
It's a concern we raise concerning the NIDS legislation. Let me see if I find it. But it's a concern we had because, and it's still there. We pointed it out, but it's still there. What is going before the Senate still contains that clause, and it gives.
Is it about the issuance of any documents or anything that the person could then have a document pointing out what their gender is? Can you recall?
No. There's a section in the NIDS legislation that says at any time after an individual is enrolled, and this is 9.6, that individual may request in writing to the authorities the alteration of any identity information with respect to that individual that the individual claims to be incomplete, incorrect, misleading, or otherwise in need of alteration. And we pointed out that in view of the what we saw happening in the world, that this needed to be, that it needed some parameters, some limitations. We actually said, listen, put in a clause to say that this will not affect the sex of the individual. So
the identity information you are arguing could include a person's gender.
Yes. But
you're not seeing any. I'm sorry, Mr. Richards. I just want to get this in because we're out of time. You're not seeing where the request to alter identity information excludes gender identity or gender or sex.
That's right.
I see.
So
any final thoughts any thoughts? We're almost out of time already, Mr. Richards. We probably have seconds left. We may have to leave it there. But Mr. Pastor Paulson, any final word before we go, sir?
No, just to underscore the point, Stokely, that in our basic understanding of humankind, we are made in the image of God, male and female. There are exceptions, biological exceptions called intersex, which are a very small number, very small percentage.
I think we got the point from you, sir. I think we got the point. Mr. Richards, any final word? Mrs. Richards, any final word, madam, in a second or two?
Well,
Sorry about that.
we need to keep our eyes open. I know, I mean, with this COVID thing, it's as if all our eyes on COVID.
We have to hold it there, Mrs. Bishop. You said keep our eyes open. We have to hold it there. We're talking about the time. I want to thank Pastor Paulson and Shirley Richards for being with us in the main watch. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back after this break.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:30 on the Sound of Love.
At the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, we're driving the growth of Jamaican businesses, large and small, developing standards to improve the quality of our products and services. We're here to help you meet quality challenge. So if you're starting a business or expanding to the next level, think quality, think BSJ. Get ready to succeed. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica, making standards work for you.
For more information, call 632-4275 today.
Between 2015 and 2020, there were 74,455 reports of child abuse in Jamaica. January to June 2021, 1,203 reports of sexual abuse, 1,465 reports of physical abuse, 2,528 reports of neglect. Report child abuse. Call 211.
Ready, set, save big on all your brand name items in the Home and Things Best Brand Sale event. Get the lowest prices on tiles, bathroom fixtures and faucets, laminate flooring, lighting, windows and doors, plus more, even on new arrivals. Shop top brands like American Standard, Moen, Corona, Hunter, and Angel Grace. Visit our showrooms at Old Road Road and Constant Spring Road. The Best Brand Sale event now on at Home and Things. Shop now for the best brands, big value, and even bigger savings.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have among the latest news in the Observer. Firearm and ammunition seized in Manchester. 2 presumed dead following crash in Mandeville, and 25-year-old man killed during gun battle between cops and gunmen in St. Thomas. A lot of not very pleasant news there. We now turn to Loop News online as well. We have a photograph here of opposition leader Mr. Mark Golding. Underneath it reads, "Don't differentiate between vaxxed, unvaxxed Jamaicans," Golding cautions. And there's a subtitle here, or in smaller letters, "Not the time for that yet," opposition leader tells Prime Minister. Those and many other stories in our media sources, newspapers online. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on the designation of Gender X in passports? Leave your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube Live, and also on WhatsApp, 876-997-3125, with your text and voice notes using the hashtag #TheMorningWatch. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
To listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Well, Shivani, any comments in relation to the feedback question or nothing as yet?
Well, a comment here on Facebook. Shanice Senior says, your perception of reality may not be the same as another, that you can't force someone to accept your reality, especially when it goes against societal norms or spiritual beliefs.
You know, Shivani, as I said, you know, I'm not saying that I agree with the notion of adding gender X, but, you know, persons will tell you that their reality is different from another person's reality, and the conversation continues, listeners and Shivani, all concerned, the conversation continues. I don't think that particular issue is going to go away anytime soon at all, not at all. Well, maybe we're switching gears now, complete switch of gears here. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you're tired of your job, and maybe you have a bright and workable business idea that you would like to get going. And so you decide to start a business. Now, how do you do that? Where do you go? What do you need? Who do you talk to? And why do you do all the things that you need to do to get that business going? We have online at this time to discuss this Shelley Leon. She's an attorney at law, and she's also the Deputy Chief Executive Officer and Director of Operations at the company's Office of Jamaica. Miss Shelley Leon, good day, madam.
Good morning, Stokely.
Great, a pleasure having you here online. And I ask that I be given the liberty of calling you Shelley for the purpose of this discussion. Miss Leon.
That's quite fine.
Okay. Shelley, help us here. Miss Leon, assist us. When someone, for whatever reason, decides to go off into business because, you know, they might have lost their job because of all the restrictions, some businesses weren't able to survive it. They are now out on their own, or they decide to just, as Jamaicans say, launch out at this time because they say that now is the time to do it. There's no better time than the present. How does the company's Office of Jamaica, you know, in any way facilitate this and facilitate this lawfully? If I could underline the word lawfully, and also, what are the types of business structures that they can, that your entity, the company's Office of Jamaica, can help to facilitate them to create? Ms. Leon, would you like to go ahead and outline those for us?
Okay, certainly. So in terms of how the company's Office of Jamaica lawfully facilitates the creation of companies or businesses. So the first thing, we have printed material that can guide persons. We do seminars, we participate in professional workshops, we have mobiles in which we offer person chances to be educated as to the legal structures that exist and the various reasons that they may want to choose those legal structures. So the first thing that we're going to say to someone is get professional advice. Primarily, get advice from an attorney, get advice from an accountant. We're going to say to persons, how large, what is the scope of trading that you're contemplating? What is the nature of business that you're contemplating? How much money do you have? What is your appetite for risk, or indeed your capacity for risk? In terms of governance, how able will you be to comply with certain requirements under existing legislation? Succession planning. Where do you want this business to go? Is it something long-term? Do you want it to live on so that it can be passed on from your generation to other generations? Taxation, that is something that you have to consider. And we think about assets, ownership of assets. So we're going to first give persons those broad guidelines. Of course, they would have been speaking
Can I
to
stop you
their...
there one moment, Miss Leon, Shelley?
Yes.
Can I stop you there one moment? You just said, you just gave us a laundry list of things that we need to consider. And many listeners might be hearing you and saying, oh my God, I didn't know I had to think of all of these things. And I have to go and pay an attorney, and I have to go and pay an accountant. Can't I just do something on the side and stay under the radar and just do my thing, because you're giving me too many things to do here?
All right, so really and truly, the things that I have recommended are things that will protect the business person at the end of the day, because there are many persons who persons come in, they start an entity on their own. One, they may discover that this is not the form of entity that I want to operate under. Either maybe they started as a company, and really and truly they should have started as a business, which is less formal, which has less regulatory requirements to comply with. Or it may be the converse, where they start as a business, they need to access certain levels of financing, they go to financial institutions, they find that there is more flexibility in terms of loans to companies than businesses. So that is why it's important to speak to a professional. So material is there. We do provide you with material, but we cannot, hold ourselves out in terms of offering the detailed professional guidance, which we do recommend, right? So that is why we would say to persons, still speak to these professionals.
And you, in addition to the printed material, this material is also available on your website?
We do have this material on our website, and we also have presentations with these materials. And when we give these presentations, we would expound on each category. So yes, the person will find the information online. We do have mini clips and videos as well online that persons can watch in terms of guiding them into how to actually complete the application. But before we go to how to complete the application, you had appropriately asked me what structures are available to persons.
Yes.
So I could segue into that right now. All right, so.
Please go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so depending on what someone wants to do, if it's a for-profit entity, then we're going to either recommend to operation as a sole proprietorship or operation as a partnership. The sole proprietorship or the partnership, where they are trading in a name, or if they're selling goods, then they are mandated to register a business name under the Registration of Business Names Act. Quickly, in regard to a sole proprietorship, this is one person who takes the benefit, takes the burden, has unlimited personal liability. So what I mean is there's no separation between the business and personal assets. So if a liability is incurred by the business, then that third party could seek to claim against your personal assets. In this business, formation is easy, it's inexpensive. As far as Companies Office of Jamaica is concerned, you're simply going to complete a form BRF1 and you pay fees of $2,500. Now, depending on the nature of your business, you may be required to provide us with certification. So for example, if you're a hairdresser, if you're a barber, you're going to also present us with the proof of your registration with the parish council, the relevant parish council where you live. If you are an attorney, you're going to provide us with certification from the General Legal Counsel to show that you're licensed to practice as an attorney. If you're a realtor, property manager, real estate board. So you get the gist of that. In the case of a partnership, it's the same BRF1 form, but it will only be that there are 2 or more persons carrying on business with a view to making a profit. And if it is a profession or trade which needs to be licensed, for each partner, we will get the certification. However, right, the partnership faces the same cons as the sole proprietorship in that there is still unlimited personal liability, So there is no separate legal structure, so to speak. And in the case of the partnership, because the partners are agents of each other, so if one partner goes out and does something which is in the normal course of the partnership business, then you as another partner could find yourself liable, in terms of that obligation. Now,
and that has happened before. But before you continue, we are upon a break, Miss Leon. We're going to ask you just hold on 1 second. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch. Listeners, stay with us, please.
All right, thank you.
Smart way means you have a clear mission for your money. Specific and measurable means defining the reason for your financial goals. Achievable and realistic means keeping those goals meaningful, yet attainable. Think more retirement, less world's richest. Timely means keeping a time frame in mind so that all efforts remain focused.
Visit barita.com/opportunities for more growth coach insights.
Hello.
Hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye? What are you doing?
I'm saying hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry.
Oh, I'd like to say that too.
Well, with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider, you can secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness ahead of time and benefit from their investment portfolio too.
Wow. So it's hello peace of mind
and goodbye worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider. For more information, contact 888-367-5433 or talk to one of our representatives. Guardian Life. Live secure. Live easy.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Types of credit. There are several types of credit that can be extended by a regulated financial institution. One of the most popular types of credit is bank credit. Bank credit includes loans to households, such as car loans, mortgages, student loans, and credit cards. When the institution lends to a consumer, it provides the credit to a borrower who must repay the loan back at a future date, usually with interest.
This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch, and our guest is Michelle Leon, Chief Executive Officer and Director of Operations, rather Deputy Chief Executive Officer and Director of Operations at the Company's Office of Jamaica. And we're looking at the whole matter of starting a business. And Ms. Leon, you're making a point just before the break. Would you like to please continue?
Certainly. So in regard to the partnership, some of the advantages there, because it's more than one person, so you have persons with different skills that you can draw upon. You have more opportunity in terms of investment. So, and the normal rule when it comes to a partnership is that everyone can participate in management. However, you can have a partnership agreement that varies in terms of the management structure. The other choice that I want to talk to you about today in regard to registration, what someone could choose, is the limited company. Now, with the limited company, the law operates as such that the company is a separate legal structure from the persons who form it. That has very important implications. So what are the implications? One, company can own assets in its own name. It can sue and be sued in its own name. It has perpetual succession, because I'm sure there are several companies that have been going on here in Jamaica for quite some time. And the persons who started those companies, they have long deceased. So you have perpetual succession. These are some of the benefits. Very important is limited personal liability. So as an investor, the general rule is that the most that I stand to lose is my investment. So what I put into the business and not my personal assets that I own. So there's a segregation between personal assets and business assets. So this is one thing that oftentimes make the company an attractive structure for persons, right? So for persons who are concerned about liability, and also usually persons who are going to be trading in across a wide area or even internationally, such persons will usually prefer a limited company. If you know that the business you're going in,
can you assist us here? Because isn't it that when you form a company, you are really taking on quite a bit of administrative functions that you may not need to do to maintain the life of the business? For example, all these annual returns to be filed, Ms. Leon, and you will need a company secretary and that sort of thing. Can you assist us with all of those things?
Okay, so yes, he who takes the benefits must also take the burden. So in the case of a limited company, there are some requirements. And yes, it's best that you do have a corporate secretary. So you're required to file an annual return on the anniversary date of incorporation or on the anniversary date of your last return, because there are some companies that existed prior to the 2004 amendments. You need to notify the registrar of any changes in the registered office address, the directorship, the secretary, and that must be done within a 14-day period. Of importance too, beneficial owners as well. You must notify the registrar if there are any changes in beneficial ownership. And for persons who may not be
help us by understanding the difference between beneficial owner versus the name that we see on the face of the documents as the person with the shares in the company.
Okay, so at the Companies Office of Jamaica, you may have John Brown as the shareholder, but John Brown may be holding those shares for somebody else. So John Brown is the legal owner, but really Shelley Leon is the one who is interested in those shares. So I would be the beneficial owner. And right, beneficial owner is not only in terms of the ownership of the shares. Currently, the law says someone who has at least a 50% interest, but in practice, we implement as someone having a 25% interest. But it's not only in regard to ownership. A beneficial owner could be someone who is capable of directing the policy decision of the entity. So for example, it may be the managing director or it may be a board of directors. And I must point out that a beneficial owner must always be a natural person. So you know, you have some company structures where a company is a shareholder. The beneficial owner will have to be the individual who owns or controls, as I just indicated.
In other words, a human being. A human being.
It must be a human being. And some other obligations, some other obligations with the company that I should mention. The company, for example, must have a register of members. It must have a minute book where minutes of directors meeting, members meetings are kept. And if the company makes any changes in regard to the name, the share ownership, the share structure, the registrar must be notified. If the company amends its constitution, that must be filed with the registrar as well.
Okay, so we have options. You can either form a sole proprietorship or a partnership, or you can form a limited company. Now we know that there are some other, there are some other structures out there which we don't often speak about as often. For example, cooperatives and those sorts of other entities. Would can someone consider those, or I know you're not giving advice to the public per se, but would you like to enlighten us on what some of those other structures
All right, so in terms of other structures that exist out there, which people can consider. So, for example, an industrial and provident society. So if you remember, for example, the Operation Pride scheme, a lot of those were industrial and provident societies. The PC banks that you oftentimes do business with in especially small farming communities, those are industrial and provident societies. You also have the option of a friendly society. So, for example, a friendly society or a benevolent society. So you'll have the burial schemes, you'll have the lodges, etc., and they will be, several of them will be registered as such. You have a cooperative society. So, for example, those are the credit unions, right? They register as cooperative societies. Those entities that I just mentioned, they are administered by the Department of Cooperative and Friendly Societies, right? Those sets of legislation. And it, of course, all depends, because at the end of the day, you're going to look at what I want to do and the structure that suits me best and what benefits are available. You also mentioned you could operate as a building society, right? So there are several mechanisms out there. And there are other corporate vehicles which are to come, which some laws have been passed, but they're not yet in effect. So I'm sure you would have heard of, for example, LLCs, people who do business with clients from the US. They know those legal structures. Those will be coming to Jamaica soon. I spoke about earlier the general partnership. Coming soon is the limited partnership. Yes. So we have other legal structures that are going to come, which persons may want to take advantage of because they may find them more flexible and that sort of thing. So that is why, because the structure that you choose, it's important for you. That's why it's important to talk to a professional. So when you say, this is what I want to do, these are the reasons that I want to do it, that professional will say to you, this is the suite that's out there. This is the advantage and disadvantage. Even though each organization that administers these entities, we also have information on the various structures and the advantage and disadvantages.
Well, you know, just before we wrap today, Ms. Leon, Shelley, would you like to assist us by letting us know where we can find the Companies Office of Jamaica? Maybe you want to leave us with the website. How do we find you online? And any final words you want to leave with us before we wrap today, Ms. Leon?
Okay, so thank you for giving me that opportunity, Stokely. We are on social media, so we are on Instagram, for example, and we do have a website, www.orcjamaica.com. On that website, we have precedents. So precedents are completed samples that people can follow. We also have forms which are to some extent interactive. We have the fees, we have the law. So it's very useful to check out our website, and we have some mini videos there as well. Physically, if you want to come into the plant to get some physical brochure, etc., information from persons, we in Kingston, we are at 1 Grenada Way, Kingston 5. In Montego Bay, we're at the Unit 3, the Annex, Alice Eldermire Drive. So persons can physically access us both in Montego Bay and in Kingston. So
understood. And you have mobile units that go around from time to time?
We do have mobiles because, in fact, we have a mobile that is in Montego Bay right now. So we do have scheduled visits to various parishes where persons can actually come, file returns. Officers from the Companies Office of Jamaica will assist persons with the completion of the documents and so on.
I think we have to leave it there today, Ms. Leon. I want to thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts and everything that you have said. I know the listeners were very much enlightened. And thank you for your time, Ms. Leon. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, for information or to get copies of the program, please call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. And of course, we thank you, our listeners, for being with us. And of course, you can find us, well, on YouTube, Love 101 YouTube channel, and you can find us also on Facebook. And you can now listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and stay connected to us. Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica, the family station. This has been the Morning Watch. Please have a blessed weekend and join us next Tuesday when Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint will be back to discuss other topical and controversial issues. Thanks to Kathy Gale, our producer, and to our guests. I am Stokely Marsh, and I'll get back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blair.